Hello people, Alex here. After 2 days of having been out and about trying to solve a little black dragon problem. And as you can see, I look a little different than how I did previous. And I went looking at Rage Gaming Videos' solution for hard monsters, what he called an ultimate build, and took a little bit of work, but namely of the gold Rathian variety, but I scrounged together a set more or less based on what he came up with, which has a Safi'jiiva crown, gold Rathian chest and skirt, Yin Garuda legs, and Black Veil of Valhazak gauntlets, all of which are betas, by the way, and decked out in whatever gems that suited my fancy. So it's not foolproof for Alatreon, but that's where leveling up and augmenting it will further improve it, as well as also ditching my old recovery charm for a defensive one, which I'm also trying to level up as well. But of course that takes a lot of Zenian resources, which I am very low on at the moment, so grinding is definitely being in order. And speaking of which, of grinding, yeah, this is gonna be a short stream, as it's mostly a follow-up for... I did 2 streams where I went after Alatreon on the first, on the introductory mission for him, and I hated it. Ugh. So many issues with it. And I went, of course, off-screen, because there was no point in streaming it otherwise. I went for the last 2 days on the Gathering Hub, trying to... Hold on a sec. As I was saying, yeah, 2 days worth, so it was like, why bother streaming if I'm just gonna fail over and over again? It was like, I did what I did with Behemoth, and just went off and searched for whatever route, session room I could find that was trying to take on Alatreon on the first mission. And last night, very late last night, I finally got lucky and ended up with a team that actually knew how to hurt him, and of course there was me trying not to get, doing what I could, doing the mounting, hurting the legs and all that, and overall just trying not to die. And I finally did it, and I saved the 20 minutes or so clip from that fight and uploaded it onto YouTube. So that is part 3. That clip of that final clip of 20 minutes is part 3 now on YouTube, where I finally took, of course with help, took down Alatreon. So. And if you're expecting me to be happy and proud of it, well, I got news for you. It was not. I was not happy at all, because there's way too many issues with it, and I'm going to go over that. So, like I'm saying, this is a follow-up stream to that video. So, if you want to see my full victory, go and watch my first official victory against Alatreon. The video's up on YouTube. So, there you go. Only disclaimer is there's no dialogue, because I did not bother to have my mic on or anything to speak through it. So really, that clip of me fighting and beating Alatreon is completely voiceless. The only thing there sound-wise is just the sounds of the monster and slashing weapons. So, yeah, this is a follow-up to that. And now I have access to the 2 event quests. Unfortunate. So, bad news is I finally killed him. The good news is I finally killed him. The bad news is I still have to kill him, because he has a lot, because there's some parts of his armor I like, there's several weapons I like, and of course I eventually have to do all that shit over again when I get my second male version character up to this point, whenever that'll be. And the armor for the male character actually looks cooler, in my opinion. I'll explain in a bit. But anyway, Third Fleet, what you want?
Welcome back. I've been waiting. You were amazing.
Not really.
The elemental shift, the roll of its horns. Did you see it? Was it truly an organ for controlling the elements?
Well, they definitely did modify Alatreon from being more unstable to being a little more stable. I'm guessing. Guess it makes sense because in the old world, in the new world, Alatreon is all the Elder Dragons come here to die, pretty much. So I'm guessing it makes sense that an older Alatreon would come with more control over itself. Would also explain why its wings look a little more raggedy, and why there's like some kind of bony spike at the end of its tail. I don't know.
Hypothetically, the horns allowed it to control the elements, no? Or perhaps the horns were born out of necessity.
So, like an evolutionary, I'm going to go with the simple answer and say natural selection. Like some kind of elemental control organ hidden in the horns that allows it to do it. Kind of like how Stegosaurus had spinal plates where it could like shoot blood in and out of them, possibly. I don't know.
And what is the source of its elemental power? If not a physical mechanism, is it something beyond the realm of our understanding?
Considering there's so little info on black dragons, and they're pretty much equivalent to being gods. Who knows? That's something Capcom will have to come up with eventually, I suppose.
I understand you're exhausted, but please come with me. We have much to discuss.
Exhausted doesn't even cover half of it.
We need your thoughts on Alatreon while they're still fresh in your head, Hunter.
Oh, I'll give you my thoughts, all right.
Fresh thoughts deserve a fresh transcript, no?
Yes, and Capcom better be paying attention.
Hurry along now. Once everything's recorded, we shall hold council.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you people. Amazing work with Alatreon.
Yeah, if about the amazing part.
It's amazing that our scholars and handlers were able to get everything recorded so quickly.
Yeah, after HQ apparently burned all the records, and well, as you could. Oh, and by the way, if you look down, you see my cat. I made an Alatreon weapon for him. I figured if I'm gonna be taking on him if I ever do take him on with the cat, I think that'll be better served than my basil geese mace.
You have the hunters to thank for that. Everyone in the field and at home were running like a well-oiled machine.
Ugh.
The unique characteristics of Alatreon, far beyond common knowledge, to be able to observe it to this degree is nothing short of a miracle. Considering this was just the first batch of data, it is exquisite.
First batch.
Let's end the chapter here, so to speak, and send this off to the guild. Any objections?
Yeah, unless they burn it again. Like, oh crap, they found the forbidden dragon. We can't let anyone know about this. Burn it!
Well, I do have a proposal for you, actually, about future investigations.
Really?
We need to figure out why Alatreon went to the secluded valley in the first place.
Which is where Safi'jiiva went, and of course there was strands of shed skin all around, so... Are they hinting to something else relating to Safi'jiiva again? Because it sounds like Xeno was a baby. Now they're maybe hinting that the story's not over yet. well, they did say there was more monsters coming, but sounds like they're still coming up with something. So either one or two things will happen. Either we'll have two more big boy elder dragons, one based on Fatalis and one based on Zeno again, or it'll just be one over the other. I don't know. They're building up to something, obviously. I heard one theory saying that Safi Jiva was not the adult, but really the teenage phase, so... And maybe there'll be a black dragon version of Safi? I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of like how, a lot of weird passing of names, kind of like how instead of referring to, Rathalos and Rathian as, male-female version, they give them the names for it, Rathalos and Rathian. I guess kind of like how we refer to a lion and a lioness for the male and female. I don't know, I'm just speaking gibberish at this point.
Why would it go to such a remote place intentionally? Was it just by chance, or did it have a purpose?
Well, a lot of bioenergy over there could be a hint.
That's right. The secluded valley is also home to that red monster.
You can start calling it Safi Jiva, by the way. It has a name now. I find it weird how when upon finding Zeno Jiva, they actually said it gave it the name, but they never called Shara Ishvalda by name, except in written word after the fact, and the same with Safi. Well, no, I correct myself. They were calling it Safi Jiva in gameplay. It's been so long since I fought it, so yeah, they do refer to Safi by name in his missions. It's Shara that never got that.
I find it hard to believe that it went to pick a fight. There's gotta be a reason.
Yeah, what is the reason?
Right. Which is why I think we should look into the connection between Alatreon and that red monster.
Story building up. Hopefully whatever they build up to will not be another colossal disappointment.
And let the guild know we're going to continue investigating.
That's her job.
Of course, it may be a long while before we uncover anything.
Yeah, no thanks to the Chinese Communist Party virus for stalling everything.
Okay. Your idea sounds good. Get everything ready.
Way ahead of you. I'm almost finished.
Then I shall take the responsibility of reporting to the guild. I'll let them know of both our findings and future plans.
Understood. Thank you.
Ah, that leaves one more thing left unattended.
Really?
I hope we were able to get rid of that annoying fear of the unknown.
Yeah, not really. I fear for whatever crappy MMO bullcrap Capcom's gonna put on the next monster.
Yes, but there's still much we've yet to uncover. We're just getting started. The path is long, but we'll get there.
Well, you're right about that. Now let's wrap things up, people. Again, fantastic work. Rest up today. You earned it. Dismissed.
Okay, Alatreon's quest will be available as a limited time only event quest, which of course means it comes back every now and then. For your duration, the quest alternates every day between fire or ice as the active element for Alatreon at the start of the quest. Sorry about that. Got interrupted again. Limited time only event quest for duration. The event quest alternates every day between fire or ice as the active element for Alatreon at the start of the quest. Which honestly does not matter, because honestly you can just go in with Dragon Element and meet the middle ground and break him anyway, so yeah. You didn't need it, Mom?
We need to make exact change for a client.
Oh, and it didn't work? Okay.
And we needed a 10 to make it happen.
Ah, sorry. Okay, just... Well, that little exchange was pointless, so... As I was saying, yeah, I went in, I tried Frost Weaponry, and it didn't really get anywhere for me. Honestly, you might as well just do Dragon Element and fight him through all of it with there, and just break him that way. Tile and description of the day's event and provides a hint as to which element is active, so keep this in mind when preparing for the hunt. Alatreon quest will only be available for limited periods of time. System messages will alert you whenever it is available. And, yeah, the group that I went with, that event where I finally killed him, they didn't even have matching weapons. One guy, he had, like, the double element dual blades from Teostra, and the other guy had and the person that was leading the quest had a Rathian longsword of all things. So yeah, apparently the whole element requirement is a little finicky, to say the least. I don't know. Whatever. Alatreon Shard. New tutorial added. And I also remembered I have a side quest that I completely forgot about because I hadn't been online in a while.
That's my partner.
Amazing work. We were able to verify that it is able to use all the elements freely, and I think that sets up for future investigation as well. That's kind of like a pseudo retcon, because in the old Monster Hunter Tri and Generations Ultimate, it couldn't use them freely. It was unstable. So I'm going with the assumption that because this is the Alatreon that we fought was an older version of it, it eventually had more control over it. That's my assumption, unless they just retconned it. Think about something. Was thinking, can we coexist with monsters? We've kind of been beating the crap out of them. So come to the conclusion that I don't think we'll ever get along with monsters, much less Elder Dragons. Well, most of them are pretty dangerous to live with. But then again, it's possible some of them could be domesticatable. Like, hello, we've been riding around on Jagruses and Gyroses, for God's sake, so take a couple of them and start hand-raising them, and eventually, doing what we did with turning with dogs and wolves. You know, you gotta start somewhere. Elder Dragons, who knows, but I think you might have luck with some of the more regular ones. I think that if we find a way to fully understand how they behave, we can keep our distance, maybe it's possible. But with Alatreon, do you think that a monster like that can live in the same world as us without interfering with our way of life? Well, Alatreon's more or less King Ghidorah. Where he goes, a storm comes with him, and, well, it's like not really his fault. Again, because of the whole unstable element thing. And from what Josh from Rage Gaming Videos said on the lore, Alatreon likes to go hide in secluded places because he's completely solitary and does not like anyone, monster or human, or Wyverian, literally anyone else with a blood pulse, with a pulse, really. And apparently his hide is so tough he can survive in, like, deep underwater pressure. That's what I've read. At least that's what I've heard anyway. So it's really just bad luck if he ever does show up. I think we had our answer as soon as we confronted it. So in a way, I totally get why some people wouldn't want to accept Alatreon's existence. I think you'd think it would be more productive to keep those records around so as to tell people, hey, giant god black dragon that roaming around, let's be careful not to not get in touch in its crossfires. Seems a little counterintuitive to just burn everything, don't you think? And last I checked, there's also an event quest for... I don't know if it's there, though. The Frozen Barrios one. Doesn't look like Frozen Barrios available yet. I haven't seen any indication that it is. I think they said it would come out a month later. Next month, really. There's this ridiculous quest that I'm definitely going to need help with. Runiner Gigante and Temper Teostra, Lunastra, and Velcana. Really? Why Lunastra? Why couldn't it just be Black Veil Valhazak? At least Black Veil is manageable. Lunastra is a fucking pain in the ass. Did I say Arch-Tempered? I think I meant to say Tempered. I don't know. and Lunastra is like probably one of the worst monsters they ever introduced in this game. And honestly, in hindsight, I think I want to say only Deviljho, Rajang, and Stygian have been the only consistently good ones. Everyone else I have so many issues with due to wonky mechanics. So yeah, I'm not gonna stream that quest. No point. And there's more stuff all over the place. Okay, what does Seeker want? Tracker,
Hey.
excuse me. Nice work with the Guild's response to our findings is going to be interesting. Wonder how they'll take it. People fear the unknown more than anything, and sometimes that fear clouds their judgment. Fear is the mind killer, blah blah blah, Dune reference. Knowledge is the light that shows us the path. Not everyone's going to understand our findings, and that's fine so long as they accept it. Yeah, tell that to people who still think communism works. The work you've put into this assignment with everyone is going to expel a lot of people's fears. There's no doubt about that. You know, Hunter, I've been thinking about what your handler said. Why did Alatreon go to the secluded valley? It's really bugging me. Because of instinct, did it decide to take over while we dealt with that other monster? No, that can't be it. How could it know we would interfere? Can you imagine those two were to square off? I'm guessing the end result would not have been pretty. Can you imagine a turf war between Safi and Alatreon? A red dragon versus a black dragon? That'd be cool to see, really. I don't even want to imagine us getting stuck in the middle of that. Fuck it, do it anyway, I want to see it. Anyway, our investigations are far from over. For now, let's take it easy, especially you. You deserve a rest after the hard work you put into that assignment. You know, if they can have, Runiner Gigante, do a kill move on Shara, I want to see a matchup between Safi and Alatreon. Do it, I say. Okay, it's over here. So let's go over the weapons and armor, shall we? So, as I said, I already, made the Alatreon scythe. The scythe seems to be the weapon that everyone thinks when they think Alatreon. So I gave that to him, so that way he'll have a spiffy new dragon weapon. Which I'm sure he'll appreciate. Yeah, I'm not giving him that rosebud. Come to think of it. The Safi one is probably good too. It's hard. You call that a spear? Oh, maybe the shaft just extends. So, here's the... Oh, what's this? Oh, Safi armor. So here's the general look. Has a nice trench coat look to it. Don't know if I'll give it to him yet. So let's look over the weaponry. In the clip that I uploaded on YouTube, I'm already using an Alatreon weapon. The Dragon Spire, and of course there's an upgraded form, but of course that requires elements that I was not able to get in that fight, and Lord knows if I'll ever get them. And I like the look of it. Personally, it has that double prong look of Nergagante's glaive, and honestly, I think I like the look of Alatreon's more. Just is, you know, looks sharp and deadly, but also more practical at the same time. Yeah, it has the horns and spikes jutting in parts, but I appreciate that the cutting part actually looks like a pair of sharp blades, as opposed to those just round horns that the Nergi one has. And that weapon is supposed to say to do sever damage. Well, I'm sorry, but this looks more appropriate for that kind of class of weapon, don't you think? Okay, so let's look at the ones that the others. Alatreon Greatsword. Now that looks like a mean greatsword right there. Unfortunately, it requires a hefty amount of cash and Elder Dragon gems, which don't exactly grow on trees. And I need to grind in the freaking investigations if I want to get more research bits to tickets to use in the Elder Melder to speed up the process. Dark Claw Scythe looks nice. Dual blades look mean. Let me hold on. Let me change into a different armor set so as to better show off the gear. Screw it. Do fan service. Easier. Or pseudo fan service. Yeah, let's do this. Temporarily, of course. Now I can see them. Oh, the light break weapons. I need to go and do those again. Ugh. So these looks cool. Have a nice bladed hook to them. Get a better view of the scythe this time. Same with the greatsword. Yeah, now I have a better view. You have a better view of it. Yeah, that looks cool. Very cool. Sword and shield, not a big sword and shield fan, but some of them do look cool, like this one, and well, most of them look cool. Of the light brick one looks cool anyway. I've always wondered why they made the hunters left-handed. Never seemed weird to me that they did that. Here's the hammer, which doesn't seem to have much of a good grip on it. It's a little stubby. Has a nice look to it, though. Spiky mace-looking thing. Now, I'm not a big hunting horn person, but I do like a couple of them, at least aesthetic-wise. And if you thought the Zenogre one was metal as fuck, well, look at this one. It's a freaking pipe organ. No, that's cool. I would use that. Have Ride of the Valkyries playing out of it. No. Have Box Staccato and Fugue playing off of it, and it'll fit nicely. Lance, not big on lances usually, but some of them I've gotten used to using. Gun lance is more my cup of tea, and sadly that, speaking of gun lances, that'll go into one of the problems I have regarding the monster itself. Looks cool. The actual gun lance part looks smaller than I expected. A lot of them are like ginormous, but this one's actually kind of small by comparison. I dig it. Switch axe, my other favorite. Now that looks cool. Definitely want to get that one. Charge blade. Nice and purple. Oh. Okay, I like that the shield kind of has what looks like a dragon face right there, kind of like the Rathalos one. Not a fan of the sword, though. The whole bulky tip doesn't really do it for me. I much prefer, the typical triangular tip of a sword blade. Insect glaive, like I already said. Light bow gun, which again goes into an issue I have. Heavy. And finally the bow, which I have to admit looks cool. I'm not big on, I'm usually not a bow person outside of a few circumstances. Keyring, but this doesn't look too bad. I dig this one. So that's the weapons. Now, how's the armor look? Now, from what I hear, the stats in it are like, eh. Looks cool. Has bit of a gothic Lolita look to it. So, yeah, I personally, it's okay. Personally, I think I like the male version a little more, because the male version of Alatreon has, you know how a classic Valhazak, it kind of looks like the Witch King from Lord of the Rings? Well, the male version of the Alatreon armor kind of has a similar thing going. Kind of like a, imagine if the Witch King from Lord of the Rings lived in the Victorian period. You know, he had the spiky helmet and a trench and of course a jaggedy batwing trench coat kind of thing going. That's pretty much what you can Google it. That's pretty much what it looks like. At least the beta has that look anyway, in regards to the helmet with the spiky crown. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to suffer this nightmare again if I ever want to get the male version of the set. Good luck with that. Ugh. I need to grind again. I'm so behind on Zenny, and you know why? Because I spent a lot of it on upgrading armor, which takes so much cash. Like, Ugh. So yeah. I like the crown here. I like... Both chests are fine. Not a fan of the overly wide skirt, but overall, it has a nice look to it. As for everything else, critical eye, health boost, attack boost, dragon resistance, a lot of dragon resistance. Defense boost is nice. That's all for beta. Alpha, dragon attack and defense boost, attack boost, powerful longer, critical eye. Yeah, Rage Gaming wasn't too impressed with it, but I imagine it has its uses. For now, I'm kind of, so yeah. Alright, so let me put back on my, my Ultra set. And speak of the devil, he just put out a video regarding element weapons, element gear, likely as a counter against Alatreon. I look like Saber from Fate Stay Night. Ugh. Let's go check the research. Oh, no, I guess I fully updated. Let's check the... Let's look at the quest board so I can see where it is. Yep. Evening Star. And then there's Dawn of the Death Star, which is the ultimate the alternate version of it, which I have to assume is a reference to Star Wars. And according to the dialogue here, they're referencing that it is gonna be in its fire form. Okay. So with that said, let's talk. Let's talk, because I have a lot of things to say about Alatreon as one who was very much looking forward to fighting him, only to not exactly get what I was hoping for. Yeah, his head's breakable, his wings breakable, his tail's breakable, hands are breakable, but fire active. I'm guessing they switch display, so okay. Fire active, weak to ice. Ice active, weak to fire. Dragon active, surprisingly weak to dragon, which you'd think would be the opposite. Honestly, I say just go straight dragon weapon and don't even bother, because if you somehow get unlucky and he switches, you're pretty much dead in the water as is. Azure Dragon Spire from the horn and tail, and good luck getting the tail, because, well, I will explain. Let me check my oh wait a minute, don't I have a pendant now? Sorry, keep getting distracted. Alatreon horn, which is... eh. don't I have don't I usually get a guild card edit for these new things? I love the raging Brachydios one that I have on me. Shrieking Legiana. I only have ever killed 10 of them, apparently. No kidding, it's one of my least hunted monsters. Alatreon Sculptor, eh? Eesh, that looks demonic, doesn't it? Attractive couple, huh? Okay. Now let's talk. Let's bring up the pics so that way it's the subject. Alright, so let's talk. What do I like about new Alatreon in general? I like that they kind of add a bit of strategy to him in regards to his element shifting. You know, fire mode, ice mode, dragon mode. There's no thunder mode. They kind of just bleed that in as a default attack that he uses anyway, which I find to be kind of overkill, but it is what it is. It's a little... it's spammy, like Kirin, but it's not as erratic as Kirin. It's a bit more orderly for the most part, although there is a wide-hitting one where the only safe place is, like, under him. And, he can now shoot water. That's a big difference between one of the big differences between the old world Alatreon and the new one. The new one actually does use all 5 elements. Fire, light, thunder, well, lightning, technically, because thunder is a sound, not the actual thing, but whatever. Water, you know, fire, ice, thunder, water, and dragon element. And he, of course, many of his moves are evolutions on the old ones. Like he uses his claws to do dragon damage. He can do like a pulse attack, like Godzilla's nuclear pulse, where he shoots dragon energy out in a limited burst. He, of course, is very erratic and flies around and runs around a lot whenever he gets more manic. So you really have to pay attention to what he's doing. And he has some pretty devastating wide area attacks, especially not just the lightning, but also with his fire breath and ice breath, where he'll do what Velkhana does and go up and, you know, spray it down in an area blast. So yeah, it kind of has some of the same principles as Velk does as well. Velkhana does, where he'll do like a ring of fire thing, which even Xeno'jiiva did before Velkhana ever showed up. So he looks very cool. He looks nice in a lot of ways. I do think I like the new design, the alterations to it a little more than the old one. The old Alatreon, I generally love the look of the old one, but there are some aspects of it that I thought were a little weird. Like, I namely thought his wings looked silly. His wings looked a little too short for what I expected a dragon of his size and stature to be. Like, they look a little short on the tip, where here they're a little more traditional. And they're also a bit more shredded in bits, so you can definitely tell it's an older-looking version of it, which is clearly the hint. An older Alatreon that has mastered his unstable powers in his old age. So, overview on that, I like his moves. I like that he is aggressive to a degree that you would expect a black dragon of his caliber to be. The new element shifting is a nice change, which has a fair amount of thought put into it. And all that is nice. I can live with. That's all great. And the fight itself is enjoyable and challenging, and of course, you know, if you're not careful, you're gonna die. That's all I wanted and was expecting. Unfortunately, a lot of that good is woefully overshadowed by one very, very, very bad aspect that Capcom stupidly borrowed from the Book of Behemoth and applied it and did to Alatreon and did it worse. Here's the thing. They gave it a zone-wide instant kill. Why? Who the fuck knows? It's just a... It is a lazy... Capcom is trying way too hard to try and turn this game into to add MMO mechanics where they are not wanted and never fit with the game. It was one thing... Third interruption in a row. So I was saying, yeah, they ever since Behemoth showed up way back, Capcom has been stupidly smitten with trying to add MMO gimmicks into monsters where it does not fit with the style of Monster Hunter at all, and it just stops the game. That's pretty much the problem with Alatreon. They made an already challenging monster that was rewarding in its fight into a chore, and it just sucks so bad. And the gimmick is, if you don't hit him with a competing element hard enough and fast enough, an invisible DPS timer will go down to 0, and he will do a move called the Eschaton Judgment, which cannot be avoided at all. You have to tank the damn thing with all your health items, and if you do not meet that damn timer, your health goes down faster than you can blink, and it is so fucking stupid. So damn stupid. It's like, at least with Behemoth and Safi Jiva, you could hide under a rock. Any other monster that has Novas like Teostra, you could do the Superman dodge dive. Here, you don't get that luxury. You were forced to take it. And honestly, I'm so sick of it. It needs to fuck off already. No, I don't care if you could survive it with just a thing with the here, this or that. No, I'm tired of it. Behemoth was what was good for a one-time thing, but they just keep doing it. It's not challenging. It's bloody annoying, and it shouldn't be here. Safi Jiva was honestly okay, because at least there was plenty of rocks you could hide behind, and if you died, that was your own fault. Alatreon's doing his Eschaton Judgment Nova is just honestly an excuse to cart hunters, because they were too late because they were too lazy to come up with one that actually did, you know, penalize bad playing. It's not challenging at all. It's tedious and very poor game design, and they learned nothing from Behemoth, or for that matter, Lunastra, because Lunastra had a very bad Nova too, where it just completely soaked like the whole arena, and you could barely get away from it. And as a result, they've pretty much destroyed what was considered one of the hardest fights from one of the old games, and just made it into a chore. And I'm hearing a lot of very, very vapid defenses of the get good type. Now, you know, I normally side with the get good sentiment for a game that is reasonably hard. Like, for example, Dark Souls. There's plenty of bosses in Dark Souls where that is most certainly the case. Ninja Gaiden Black and Devil May Cry 3 and 5 are, hell, even 4 are good examples where you have bosses that, you know, require your absolute skill to do. And here, however, it's not this. Everyone's saying get good, get good. No. I can understand that if the difficulty was fair and balanced, and it did require actually learning. Alatreon does not require any of that. It's just luck and not even close. Oh, just hit him hard enough. Yeah, to beat an inconsistent element DPS timer that, regardless of what I do, is just gonna cause the monster to explode anyway, in an attempt to just cancel the game anyway. Essentially making all of my hard work, no matter how good I play, ultimately fruitless. So, yeah, I'm gonna go back to Dark Souls in a comparison in regards to different monsters, but why is Dark Souls difficult? Or even other ones like Ninja Gaiden, or the Devil May Cry games difficult? Because the enemies and bosses, especially in Souls, have key attributes to their difficulty, in that they do a lot of damage and are very aggressive. And a lot of them, especially in the harder bosses in those games, leave very little room for error. Now, some are more forgiving than the others. I would say Devil May Cry on the normal and even hard difficulty are a little forgiving because of all the health things you can get. But it's still, a lot of the time, if you screw up, it's your fault, not the game. Monster Hunter is, of course, similar to this as well, or at least it was anyway, but at the very least you had options to how to go about things, you know, blocking damage, evading damage with dodges, and proper spacing. So, remember Maria from Bloodborne? Well, if I get slapped by her, I can figure out the timing and how to best either dodge or parry those attacks. Again, Teostra. When he charges Nova, I can run away or dive from the explosion or flash him. I don't do flashes very often, but at least the option exists. Hell, even tank him with a super buffed armor set. So yeah, options clear as day that allow me to adjust to the circumstances the way I can manage. Alatreon's Eschaton Judgment, on the other hand, takes completely away all options, meaning you can't do anything about it, you're forced to take it. And honestly, the elemental damage thing, that stupid MMO mechanic they added in, is just a game of luck. It's like a more dangerous version of whack-a-mole, honestly. You're not being rewarded for skilled play. You're being needlessly punished for no reason. It's not like Maria or any of the other bosses and monsters that I will mention where the challenge is, you know, fair. It's more like the Bed of Chaos, the worst boss from Dark Souls 1, where it's just bad, and you have to deal with it. Which is all horrible, because the fight itself is great without the Nova. As for the get good defense, well, there is no get good here for the very reason I said. It does not take actual skill, it just takes a lot of luck to try and beat a timer that needlessly adds pressure to an already hard fight. It is this one single BS mechanic that just completely destroys and ruins the whole fight. And because the devs have honestly forgotten what made Monster Hunter fun in this regard. You still had ways to get around shit. But ever since Behemoth came around, it's like they keep trying to turn this game into an MMO. And hello, Capcom, I do not play Monster Hunter to play Final Fantasy XIV. If I did, I would be playing Frontier, and there is a reason Monster Hunter Frontier is a spin-off. A spin-off only available outside of America, and I, of course, do not want anything to do with it. And so, yeah, I'm pretty salty about this, to be perfectly honest. In that, yeah, the game just chooses to kill you, and there's nothing you can do. And unlike a Lunastra, where it was bad, but you could or even Safi, or even Behemoth, here it's guaranteed, no matter what you do. And it's so damn retarded, and I have no idea what they were honestly thinking at all. It's nonsense that they thought any of this was a good idea, in all respect. It was they're all saying, like, get good. No, fuck you and your get good. Get good required. If this were an actual get good fight, it would be, knowing his patterns, not getting hit, having the options clear to me, and also and a bunch of other things. And okay, I'm rambling now. I wrote out my thoughts here, so let me find the rest of them another bit. I wrote a lot of them on Twitter, and part of what I just said is also a shared sentiment from King of Zeros on Twitter, who's a longer veteran at this series than I am. So let me find my other thoughts here, just so I can further point out the problems with this shit. And as for the Eschaton Judgment, I didn't really bring this up ever during my playthrough of World and Iceborne, but if you've followed the developer diaries for Iceborne and a lot of the other content that was happening beforehand, it's pretty obvious that the development team behind World and Iceborne has no idea what the fuck they're doing when it comes to balancing the game. It's like every other week, it's like, oh, we're downgrading this, we're nerfing this, but we're gonna power the shit up to this. And yeah, they've for a monster that requires element, good luck finding weapons that can do enough of it, because a lot of the elemental weapons in World and Iceborne have been considerably nerfed, prioritizing raw damage. And this is like one of the big issues with Alatreon, because of the elemental DPS, because of the awful time trial bullshittery, and the fact that Alatreon flies and runs around, leaving you in the dust, unable to catch him. Half the weapons are essentially useless. And there's hardly high enough ledges or walls to actually mount him. And, I mean, yeah, you could do the claw, but even then, he can still knock you off if you're not, if you so much as even miss the time, even when you're paying attention to it. And I would also argue that the Mad Rush increases bad play because you got a whole bunch, you got players who are in a mad rush to try and kill the dragon before the timer goes up, and then big shit go boom, you're dead anyway. So great swords are worthless unless he's on the ground. Same with long swords. Gun lances are I don't even think are even that effective. I thought lance players like King of Zero was over exaggerating when it came to them being excluded from Safi'jiiva, but no, it's way worse here. Just use a bow gun, people say. No, fuck the bow gun. I don't want to use it. That's not strategy catering to the game's strengths. That's just an exploit. Because if there's only one way to kill a monster that by all means should be available to be killed with all styles of game, then you've essentially made half the game at this point functionally worthless. And in regards to the whole element and raw damage thing, yeah, honestly, this is a symptom of a problem that has plagued Monster Hunter World for like since all the DLCs started coming out. The balancing is inconsistent. All Capcom had to honestly do was just stick to a balancing act that would have both satisfied and punished new and old players. You know, actual learning through failure. But Capcom didn't take that route at all. They took the lazy one, and in the case of here, Alatreon, because a lot of veteran players thought the game was too easy, they overreacted and they sloppily hamstrung what was supposed to be the ultimate Apex challenge into one that is just a pure tedious one based on a random numbers game and luck. Not skill, luck. Again, the get good argument is fallacious with this one. And again, World is technically my first game, but I've been playing World since the day it came out. And I've, for all intents and purposes, been following along the other games, you know, looking them up, seeing how they worked. Rage Gaming Videos' YouTube channel has been very helpful in this respect as well. So the point of Monster Hunter, as far as I've known it, throughout all this time, even before playing World, was to pick whatever style of weapon you liked and master it. And if there was elemental or ailment differences involved that were either advantages or disadvantages to a certain target, no problem. Get another version of it. You know, get another version of it that can do it while still suiting your playstyle. That's all fair, fine and dandy. It's why players, especially ones that have great swords, can take out a freaking Rathalos, depending on how you do it. Alatreon here in Iceborne, however, because of all the MMO dipshittery added, eliminates half of those weapons from being useful, like I said. So, yeah, lance players, sword players, you're shit out of luck. And and I'm a Glaive main, so at the very least, I can catch up with him when he flies up. The problem is, the DPS timer is inconsistent, and I've tried fighting Alatreon solo several times now. Not once have I ever been able to knock him out, and in so doing decrease the power of the judgment attack. I die every time. My last attempt, I died 3 whole times. I gave it my best college try, where I did not die from any of his normal attacks, and he killed me with 3 bursts of the Eschaton Judgment attack. And that was all she wrote. I was able to break his horns one time, but beyond that, I couldn't knock him out of it. And as a result of that, I don't have time to cut his tail. Unless I just solely focus on it anyway. So, we have ourselves this timer, which forces, along with the added rush of getting rid of busting his horns to limit his shifting. So, you pretty much have a worse version of Kulve Taroth, where you have no time to experiment and take out any of his parts, especially if they have materials that you really, really need, like the dragon tail. You know, like a part from his tail for parts of the armor or even weapons. It sucks. It really sucks. Yes, it is true in RPGs that not all characters or classes are equal, and yeah, eventually you will find something that does break the game. Why do you think of freaking Rage Gaming made the Ultimate Armor sets? Of course you're gonna find stuff that does break the game. But rather than fine-tune World in ways that rewarded the skilled player and punished bad form, Capcom's solution was basically to break all of them. And now we have a situation on our hands where a monster that was considered hard but fair for the accomplished player can just be one-shot, can just get a one-shot death in the entire arena and be completely hapless to honestly do anything about it, except to stand there and either pray you survive it, or die anyway, because the game decided to give you the finger and say, LOL, die now. Why? Because Capcom, like I said, got lazy. Lazy and very sloppy because they just could not be bothered to find a way that didn't involve MMO stupidity. And yeah, and they've since Behemoth, like I've said, they've tried way too hard to turn World and Iceborne into a quasi MMO, and a bad one. Again, Behemoth was fine for the one time he showed up. He should have been for only that. I would also go on to say that the Witcher stuff was also stupid, but that's another thing. Problem with all this is that Capcom refused to leave it alone ever since, and that infatuation has just further ruined enjoyment for other monsters. Like, when they brought back Kulve Taroth and made it a straight-up fight, I was so happy about that. Like, okay, we can get down to business. None of this extra following around silliness. And what did they do? They left in the goddamn timer, meaning that even if you're doing well against Kulve Taroth, the game can just arbitrarily decide, nah, she's going away now, you lose. Even though you might have been actually doing well. And they keep doing it too, and they did it again with Safri Jiva. Where he can just, even despite having a full 35 to 50 minute time limit for both of them, the game just arbitrarily decides, oh, you didn't put in enough damage? Fuck you, he's gone. It's the same issue with Alatreon here, except with the added unfortunate addition of big shit go boom. And fuck you, pretty much. Doing well, too bad. Invisible timer. Don't try, don't have fun, don't actually finish the job. We gotta arbitrarily just stop you from finishing. Terrible. Ugh. It's just stupid. So, here, let's do, again, like I said with the Dark Souls, let's compare some other enemies, shall we? Let's compare from both World, a past monster from World, and one from Dark Souls. Hell, I'll even throw another one from another game while we're at it. Let's compare, you know, one good one and one bad one from each game. And specifically, Nergigante and Manus for the good, and Bed of Chaos and Alatreon for the bad. Here's the thing. Nergigante is hyper-aggressive. Anyone who's played World for a while now knows that, especially if you've faced both the Arch-Tempered and the Ruiner version. And for a new player like me, well, relatively speaking, who started with World 2 years ago, I will happily admit with no shame that Nergigante kicked my ass so many times until I eventually got good with him and started reading him properly. And anyone who doubts that, I have the receipts. You could go on my YouTube channel and at Alex Co, you know, at my name, and you can just go on my channel and look up my Monster Hunter World playthrough. Strictly World, the Iceborne one I have as a different playlist, because I could kind of consider it like an expansion and sequel in a lot of ways. And you can see that I indeed suffered with Nergigante the first several times I fought him, and oh man, it was definitely my introduction to Elder Dragons. And so yeah, I have the receipts. Look up the parts in the playthrough and see for yourself if you doubt me. So even for a quote easy game for veterans, it still was quite the jumping on point for me there. And of course, Capcom, they further added to Nergi with Arch-Tempered and Ruiner, and anyone who tells me to get good, I have news for you. I took on and ultimately killed Arch-Tempered Nergigante. Several times, in fact. After being crushed and mauled by him several times over. So don't tell me to get good when obviously I have been doing that in this game. The problem is Capcom has been so inconsistent with how they've updated the game since then. And in the case of both normal, Arch, and Ruiner, all of them leave very little room for error, and of course do require a mastery of your weapon and the knowledge gained from having fought them. And at the very least, you have options to mitigate the gaps in the armor. So yeah. Now let's look at a Souls boss, like Manus, who I loved in Dark Souls, which was the last game I just completed. And like Nergigante, he too is hyper-aggressive and leaves little margin for error, but again, options to get around him that are balanced enough to suit the playstyle of your choosing, while still being punishing for bad play, that is fair and warranted. You go with Manus, you can dodge the attacks if you time them well enough, hit him in his sides when he leaves himself exposed, and if you are given the option of finding a special item in the township where you could deflect his wide-hitting spell attacks, which you can dodge most certainly, and there were times where I actually never needed to because I got under him and he couldn't reach me. But the option is still there, especially if you make a bad move and you're trying to correct it. Now for a bad example. And this one, like I said, is probably the capstone of it, and is very much the same reason as to why Alatreon is ultimately crippled with the Eschaton Judgment. The Bed of Chaos. Remember that? Yeah, whereas Nergigante and Manus offer fair penalties for bad play, all that is instead replaced and thrown out the window by cheap gimmicks that punish even the most skilled players regardless of how they play. With Bed of Chaos, there's no proper way to mitigate the damage on that one, and anyone who's watched my playthrough of that game, anyone's playthrough of Dark Souls in general can show you how bullshit it is. I mean, yeah, blocking it en route to the weak point works, but coming back, you're exposed, and you cannot do anything to mitigate it. If you get hit and end up in a hole, you're dead, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're forced to die to accomplish... You're literally forced to die to honestly accomplish anything. Meaning there's no reason to even try to do more than that. It's not fun. Like if sucking in order to win is fun, then your definition of get good is honestly faultier than it has any right to be. So that logic of sucking to win applies especially to Alatreon because of how inconsistent his DPS timer is, which doesn't encourage skilled players to play well, but instead causes the opposite effect where they're in a rush to beat the clock and they get sloppy. I've seen it. I've done it, and it's hard not to freak out, and also because he's spamming his powers all over the place, flying around and all that, it becomes very hard to hit him. It really does. So, in a sense, even when you're playing good, you're needlessly punished to an obscene degree. That's even if you are playing well against him and trying not to die by his attacks. So if you so much as miss that timer, that's all she wrote, and you're forced to die with no options available. No dodge, no rocks, not even the Farcaster. They took that away. And yeah, it's not fair difficulty. Not even for a monster like him, which is how it was back then. And like I went over, everything. You know, what sucks is, without taking Eschaton Judgment into account, the fight is fine. Is perfectly fine. Getting killed because I failed to read his attacks is fair. Using certain elemental weapons of the certain elementals in the style of the weapons I prefer to counter him is fine. That's how Monster Hunter should be. Use what I prefer, but still in ways that suit the target. So if I'm going after a monster weak to dragon element, of course I'm gonna pick a weapon that's weak to damage element to dragon that has dragon element. I'm not exactly going, if I'm fighting a fire monster, I'm going to pick a weapon of the class that I prefer in order to deal the opposite element. I'm not gonna bring the same one, obviously, although there are some exceptions where that is, like, for example, Basilgeuse, where he still has a little bit of a weakness to blast. But because they ganked at Alatreon with that timer, which relies on more luck than actual skill to stop him, Capcom artificially made it difficult further, but not just through there, but of course by removing all the options and prioritizing certain weapon types. So the game is effectively broken, and you're forced to sit there and die anyway. So what's my point? Nergigante in most of his forms, and I stress most of his forms, because AT was Arch-Tempered was a nightmare, let's be perfectly honest, and Manus are great bosses because they reward the skilled and attentive player while fairly punishing the bad ones. Hell, Virgil in the Devil May Cry games, the good ones, the true good ones, because fuck the reboot, 3 and 5. That was a fight that required using everything you learned in order to come out on top. And it was not bullshit, although it could certainly feel like it, especially if you're playing on the harder difficulties. But if you screwed up, that was primarily your fault. There's a reason why I have Virgil at the top of my personal boss ranking list in video games. I made a thread about that on Twitter, for God's sakes. Iceborne, Alatreon, and Bed of Chaos, however, are not fair because they break their games by punishing all the players in a very, very poorly implemented one-size-fits-all approach. And yeah, I don't enjoy it. And when I when I killed Alatreon last night, I did not feel happy about it. I felt like I honestly got robbed and cheated of something far, far better because Capcom just could not leave their little Final Fantasy XIV Frontier infatuation alone. They couldn't do it. They really couldn't. And, yeah, there's no time to cut the tail. You might as well, they pressure you to focus on the horns. I couldn't even break the wings even, honestly. I only broke the tail one time soloing, and of course, you're given no chance to do it. And, yeah. That's pretty much, my general, long-winded, perhaps even a little repetitive thoughts on Alatreon, so... Honestly, I've never seen so many people say get good for something that is so fundamentally broken. People, honestly, stop defending what is very blatantly bad game design for a game that until now, where it's like, oh yeah, everything that Monster Hunter has, yeah, throw it out the window and try to turn it into another game that never shouldn't be there. And I blame this piece of shit right here, fucking Behemoth. Had Capcom just stuck to the original the original plan of having Alatreon and Arashi Kirin, and did not fool around with Behemoth, and by extension, the Witcher silliness, I mean, it's tough to say whether or not they would have done it anyway with Alatreon and, you know, Kolv and Safi. But I like to personally think that if they never entertained the thought of adding this monstrosity, we would have gotten Alatreon in a way that would have been far more balanced. You know, you can have the elemental shifting and everything. That's fine. That's all fine. I wouldn't have even minded Eschaton Judgment if it was like a final stand kind of attack where he's on his death, he's now entered death, and he now has an attack that you have to be careful not to get caught in. Of course, the problem is that there's no way out of it. So, I like to personally think that had Behemoth never happened, we would have gotten Alatreon as he is without the Eschaton Judgment. I'm perfectly fine with everything else, but that Judgment just breaks him in totality and makes what should have been a true test of your actual skill into boring, broken tedium that relies on luck, not skill, and no amount of get-good elitism will ever change that. You want get-good? You know, freaking play against Arch-Tempered Nergigante and tell me that doesn't fit the moniker of get-good. Because there's nothing get-good about what they've done to Alatreon. It's just a bullshit numbers game of luck. Nothing more, nothing less. And I am floored why this is getting a pass. So yeah, fuck Behemoth and everything that came with it. We should have gotten Alatreon in base world, honestly, as it was planned, and Lord knows if Orochi Kirin will ever come around. Granted, I'd prefer never to see another Kirin for as long as I play this franchise, but considering how accurate that list was, I like to think that that was the original schedule of release monsters until they suddenly just flipped the board, and because one of those three chuckle fucks managing the game was like, let's just cross over with an MMO just just for reasons, even though it does not fit at all. And instead of making it a one-off like they should have, they didn't leave it alone. Terrible. I'm so sick of it, honestly. If they do this again, they better not do this again with the next monster, big monster that they're building up to, because it's clearly obvious they're building up to something either Safi'jiiva related or Fatalis related or something else entirely. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, what they're going to do, but I pray to God they stop it with this MMO stupidity and never bring it back in the next Monster Hunter game. It does not fit with any of it at all. If I just leave it in with Final Fantasy, leave all that crap with Final Fantasy XIV and Frontier where it belongs. No more of this crap in the main series, please. So yeah, the actual fight itself is great. It's just too bad that it's all overshadowed by one bad mechanic that just ruins the whole thing. And as a result, yeah, you're not rewarded for hard work. You're rewarded for how fast you can beat an inconsistent luck gamble number thingamajig. Ugh. Okay, I think I've made my peace. I'm falling apart. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to suffer this insanity again. So when I go back to leveling up my second character, and most definitely getting the weapons from my main character here. But I hope I can at least shed some light as to why I have so many issues with Alatreon as he is right now. Capcom needs to go and nerf him. They really do. Because I do not feel any sense of satisfaction. Hey. Like, even with Safi'jiiva and Kulve Taroth, despite the stupidity of their timers, I at least got a semblance of satisfaction with their fights. I was so looking forward to this. The day I found out about I saw that leak, and I was so looking forward to it when it was first officially announced. And you know what I also think happened? I don't think they properly tested the Eschaton judgment mechanic. Because why? Because COVID Communist Chinese Party virus 19 happened. How much you want to bet that because of that they did not have time to properly test it? So now we have an exacerbated problem on account of their spotty record of inconsistent balancing. So, yeah. Terrible MMO mechanics that should have been left alone with Behemoth. Inconsistent balancing, plus a schedule that got interrupted due to unfortunate real-world circumstances, and what could have been probably the best fight and probably a great remix of Alatreon has been utterly destroyed because of one stupid, you can't have any fun mechanic. There go, we gotta stop making you play thing. Yeah. Didn't hit the timer, big shit go boom, stop playing. Don't matter if the options that we gave you could help or not. Well, you gotta die anyway. Fuck you, goodbye. So, yeah. They ruined it. They really did. The positives are sadly overshadowed by the one big fat negative. And I am hoping to God that a sizable amount of players that hate this, both veterans and newcomers, and yes, there are plenty of veterans that hate this. I'm hoping that they're loud enough where Capcom actually listens and they do something about this, because I did not have fun fighting Alatreon because of that gimmick, and I hope they do something about it. Even if I would prefer they just removed it altogether. But if they don't, at the very least, nerf it or balance it, so it doesn't just immediately kill you in less than a nanosecond. Or at the very least, make it like a last stand thing where he only does it at the end when he's near death, and only for that. Kind of like your Obi-Wan, I have the high ground kind of thing, but you actually have to try and breeze through it. Get rid of the stupid DPS timer. It has no place. It never had any place to be here. Just a lot that needs fixing. All because of one very, very ill-thought mechanic that never should have been here. But anyway, I'm starting to repeat myself because I'm just so damn frustrated and disappointed with this. So that's all for this follow-up video for my actual first true victory on Alatreon. I love the base stuff they have him do, but the bad aspect just outweighs the whole thing. It just makes it incredibly disappointing, and as a result, I do not feel good about beating him like I did others. It just feels... It's like Behemoth all over again. I have no joy or pride in killing him when I eventually did. The fun was just sucked out by this point, and I hope they actually do something about it this time, because it seems like a lot of players have finally are saying enough and they want it to stop, as opposed to the other side, which of course is using get good as a vapid argument to sidestep what is essentially a very broken and untested mechanic, and think that players who hate it just don't like difficulty. They're entitled. Meh, 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 meh. Nah. Yeah. If that constitutes as fair, balanced gameplay, then the Bed of Chaos is the best fight in Dark Souls. Then fuck you. That's all I say. So it doesn't look like Frostfang Barioth is available yet. I'm gonna go check to see if when he's gonna come out. He's not on the quest board at all, as far as I can tell. So I'm gonna go take a break, and then spend the rest of the day doing what I can to grind, because I need more cash to upgrade stuff and buy stuff that I want and have neglected to do for a while, because I played Monster Hunter World so consistently to a point where I just kind of got tired of the game, and even after playing a big chunk of Iceborne, I was like burnt out. So I'm gonna do what I can. Since I unlocked the actual event quest, I'm gonna try going after Alatreon some more with players who hopefully know what they're doing by this point. And hopefully I'll be able to get the parts I need. And that's a big if, because that Eschaton Judgment mechanic just destroys and breaks him, honestly. So that'll do it for this stream. No gameplay, just a big follow-up where I could, show off the rewards of what you get, what I plan to do, and of course my long-winded thoughts as to why I found Alatreon to be so disappointing. So that'll be it for this stream. I'm going to, of course, I'll think over what I want to stream next as far as other games are concerned. I also keep putting off my Gundam model I've been trying to finish. Oh boy. Too many hobbies, so little time. So that's gonna do it for this discussion video, and I'll be back another time. Later.